Assalamu alaikum, rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Here, I make this start off with this video talking about something that I think we're in need of here in the U.S. Why not have like our own like Islamic production companies? And we have, there's the Christian ones. There's like back in the 90s and the early 2000s. I think the company was called Lalonde. They made a lot of things based off of the Book of Revelation, and the whole thing with the Antichrist. A lot of those like low-budget movies. And nowadays there's a group called Angel Studios that makes a bunch of Christian-oriented films. So where's the Islamic one? I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's one out there. I'm not aware of it here in the U.S. But I know there are some shows that are made that do feature Muslims, but not in a positive light. Like the TV series Caliphate, that came out on Netflix back in 2020, and was recently taken off Netflix for some reason. I'm not sure why. But now you can find it on Amazon Prime Video, and it's actually a really well-written show, and very well acted, and definitely ended on a couple cliffhangers that should definitely be resolved. And then see, there's of course Netflix also did have the Rise of the Ottoman series, which I enjoyed watching a lot, but then you have the BBC did a series back in I think 2017 called The State. That only lasted 4 episodes. That was also very well written. You can find episodes of that online to watch, and that was magnificently done. And there was a whole lot more story that they could have told with that. But they're all presented, from the perspective of, the Islamic State, and not actually from, pious, Muslims. And I think we need more, shows that actually show the goodness, the purity, the strength of Muslims. Now, there is the Turkish series, Ertugrul, Yusuf Emre, Rumi, and they do a lot of really great productions on their shows. And I think everybody should check those out when they can. But I think here in America, we need some of our own, because I don't think there is any. When I was first getting into Islam, I was watching movies that did have Muslims in them, such as True Lies, The Jewel of the Nile, the sequel to Romancing the Stone, where it had Muslims who were both good guys and bad guys. And then, of course, you had the movie The Delta Force with Chuck Norris, where the Muslims were the primary bad guys. And then, of course, throughout throughout the 90s, you had a whole bunch of different television movies, on different hijackings and things, but they're all presenting us Muslims as the villains, and it gives a very narrow, negative view on us as a people, and helps just obscure, who we really are, and kind of demonizes us. And I was never fond of that. Even when I was learning Islam, such things were, you had to watch them, but you had to kind of pick apart, what was really going on there to sift through the truth. And it is hard to figure out, what's real and what's not, especially being at the beginning of the internet, when you don't have a lot of access to information. So I think that one of the things that we need is our own, production companies. I'm sure, there's probably somebody out in Hollywood, that can, or New York or some other large city, they can probably figure out how to do all this. And then, of course, back in 2001, 2002, there was a TV series, Sleeper Cell. That was awesome. But it did also present us as the bad guys. But it also had a good guy, Darwin Al-Hakim, who was an undercover FBI agent, played by Michael Ealy. That was the first time I ever saw him, and he did such a great job of that character that I just became an instant fan. And so now, like, whenever I see him in something, I'll go watch it because I just like his abilities. Like, even when he played the villain in the 3rd season of The Fallout, that's currently on Netflix. He's just a really great actor, and he was also in the TV series Fast Forward, which was also really well done. But with Sleeper Cell, they did take some things that were based, going on at the time within the Islamic world, and people's perception of Islam, how it was negatively portrayed, but they also tried to portray it, so show people the differences, between how Islam is, being corrupted by people who are very not educated about their religion, and you have other people who were, doing things that were promoting the religion and showing how peaceful it is and how it can be used for justice and help defend the poor and the oppressed. And then, of course, you had Oded Fehr, who everybody knows from the Mummy movies and current Star Trek shows. He played the main villain, Ferris El-Farak, and he did a really great job at it. I'll give him credit for that. And he's played Islamic terrorists in other TV series, such as Blood and Treasure, which I think only lasted 2 seasons. But and he also played the Muslim character Ardeth Bey in the Mummy movie 1 and 2. Kind of the point I'm trying to get at is there's a lot of negative perception of us as Muslims in the media, and I think we need to have our own production company to kind of steer it in a more proper direction. I know I could probably end up saying this a lot more eloquently and stuff, but it's just kind of something that's just kind of been popping around in my head, and I figured I might as well take the time now and say it. And and we do have the movie The Message, which is a great movie. There's the animated version for kids, but unfortunately there's not a lot out there that shows Islam as good, peaceful religion it really is. There's too many people who want to see it in a negative light. Now, it is good, with the movie Mosul, that's also on Netflix right now, that shows the Muslims fighting against Daesh, who are corrupting the faith, and it's good to see them fighting back and standing up for their faith and fighting against people who are corrupting it. Because when you look at with Daesh, IS, ISIL, whatever you want to call them nowadays, the vast majority of all their victims were other Muslims. They weren't. There were some Christians, Jews, but at least 95%, I'd say, were other Muslims. So clearly they're not a very pro-Islamic organization. They're not out there to benefit Islam. They're there to perpetuate and demonize it. Now, of course, the average person who's a member of that probably doesn't know all this stuff, and only the people who are higher ups, do. Because it is kind of odd that, and I know a lot of other people have pointed this out, that the one place that Daesh has never attacked, was the Zionist state of Israel. And in my opinion, it's just it's I guess what we call it an ethno-fascist state, and they never attacked it. So that kind of makes one wonder, who's their true allegiance lie. Now, of course, most of the people who are not in the command, will see it as, they're following what they believe to be a corrupted form of Salafi or Wahhabi Islam. I don't know. I've read some books on the Islamic State that you can get from Amazon and eBay, and it seems to me that they're all following a very corrupted interpretation. I mean, just like you look throughout history, there's Christians who have taken the Bible and corrupted it for their own evil ends. You got the Inquisition, the Crusades, the witch hunts. When they came over here into America, they use the Bible to justify their, you know, demonization of the Native American peoples, and the Mesoamerican peoples. And when people like to talk about, you know, colonialism, you know, but the one thing that they always seem to leave out is the one common denominator amongst all those, regardless of whether they were Dutch, French, Portuguese, Spanish, English, or any other European nation. The one thing that they always brought with them was their version of Christianity. And so that's why if you look at the world the way it is now, you know, the vast majority of it, you know, throughout like the Americas, throughout Africa, Micronesia, you know, throughout most of the world, you know, it's Christian. And that's because, you know, the people who were the colonialists, the colonizers, were spreading their interpretation of the Bible onto the people that they conquered. You know, so it wasn't just, you know, a white man trying to come and take your land, and they're also forcing their interpretation of their religion on you. You know, so Christianity, you know, has a lot to answer for too. And I just think that, you know, people just need to wake up and realize that not all the religions of the world are bad. I mean, yeah, you're going to have a bunch of people who misguided and who misinterpret, you know, the teachings for their own personal agendas. You know, heck, just look what atheism is doing nowadays. It's, you know, when you put atheists in charge, you get communism, you know, socialism. You know, but back to my original point, you know, I think it's something that we should do. I mean, there's a lot of money out there in the Middle East, you know, for, you know, you got all those billionaires for like the oil and stuff. I mean, they should be able to contribute, you know, something to help, you know, create positive films that promote Islam instead of allowing other films out there to demonize us. And yes, I know there are some production companies, but they're very limited in their scope and their kind of reach. So I think that's why here in America, you know, for those who can afford it, you know, to help create something like that, to benefit, you know, all of us, you know, Muslims and future generations, to bring it forth and, you know, show that Islam is not the evil, you know, that Christians and evangelicals and other people, you know, claim us to be. You know, when I first started studying Islam, I saw it as a bad thing too, because I was curious as to when the whole like first 9/11 attack, you know, like not the 2001, but the first World Trade Center attack, and I wanted to know why people did that. So I began looking into the religion, and so it was a curiosity for me at first, until I realized that Islam was the truth, and I eventually accepted it, and, you know, have ever since about mid-1998. I've been a Muslim. The people who know me, you know that I am. It doesn't bother them. I have lost friends along the way, and other people that I've known throughout my life, and I've gained others. And even those who I've gained, most of them, they don't care. They just see, you know, they look at me and my character and who I am as a person, and to them, because I figured as a Muslim, it's my responsibility to at least show that Islam is not the villain that we're portrayed to be. I'd be like an ambassador in a sense, so that when people, you know, like when I move on wherever and go somewhere in life, people who will meet other Muslims, they'll remember me and say, "Oh, I remember Nelson. He was a nice guy, and he was polite, he was kind, he never did, you know, anything bad, negative, and he was a Muslim." So that's at least one positive image of Islam that I can give to a person, so that when they meet another Muslim, they'll already have a better view of who we are. And so I think that in time, when more of us can do that, and if they can see more things such as in the media, such as television shows, movies, animated series, even using AI possibly to help out, I think these are all things that are beneficial to us in the end, and can help us as a society prosper and grow. And I think eventually in time, people become more accepting of us instead of, all the hate mongering and the fear that we're getting from politicians nowadays, because it's becoming kind of like the in thing now to like hate on Islam. But yet, it's something that really kind of needs to stop, and other Muslims need to also stand up and take charge, and not allow the negative perceptions of us to continue to flourish. And there are other Muslims who are doing that. Sonny Faz, Beck Lover are doing great jobs on that. Sneeko, Bobby from Bobby's Perspective, brother Saif from Morocco at Saif Talk. You got Fayed Fit. And there's many others out there who are doing beneficial things to prevent Islam from being denigrated, and to promote Islam and show it as a positive light. And maybe in time, when I become more eloquent and better spoken, I'll be able to do that as well. But until then, I'll just keep making these little videos here on my phone, and when I can, and try to help promote and show Islam is a beneficial thing for society, for American society, and for the world. And go see you in the next video.